happens to them. So if the Romans did a terrible thing, we brought it on ourselves. If the and you could go through each of those and come up with a serious argument within that context, that we're responsible for what we do, because otherwise there was unwarranted harm done us, and God stood by. Whoever Apostomus was, and I did a quick search, and it seems, as you said, they don't have any idea. There's a theory that it's Antiochus, but I don't know why it's any more believable than the others. But anyhow, that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's certainly true that the rabbis preferred to think of the Jews as being responsible for the destruction of the first and second temple, because if you say that our own actions caused this, then that gives hope that our own actions could avert such things in the future. Whereas if you just say, well, their armies were better than our armies, then it's more of a fatalistic, meh, what could we do? And that gives you a little less agency in your own fate. So it may be a both situation. Like, you could argue that historically maybe some of our actions did contribute to it. There was partisan infighting amongst the Jews that certainly weakened their position during the Roman siege of the Second Temple. But it's probably yes and in this case.
Well, we just didn't do enough to prevent it from happening.
Right. As we'll see a little bit further on, poor strategizing about whether we wanted to ally ourselves with Babylonia or Egypt may have also contributed to the destruction of the First Temple. So, a quick explanation of some of these things. I'm not going to take the time to read the texts, but we have texts that the rabbis calculated that it was 40 days from when the 10 Commandments were given on the 6th of Sivan to it's 24 days left in Sivan plus 16 days in Tammuz, and Moses was up on the mountain for 40 days. So that's how they calculated he came down on the 17th of Tammuz. They further go on to calculate that he came down with a second set on Yom Kippur as a day of second chances and reconciliation. The daily offering being nullified, it's unclear if that was a First Temple thing because there weren't enough sheep due to the Babylonian siege, or a Second Temple thing because the Romans forbid it. So again, up for interpretation. City walls of Jerusalem were breached. In Jeremiah, it says that happened on a different day. And the rabbis are like, no big deal. Jeremiah's talking about the First Temple. The Mishnah is talking about the Second Temple. Apostomus. So the question is, who is Apostomus? Josephus says that he's a Roman soldier who burned a Torah scroll around the year 50 and almost caused a riot amongst the Jews, but the Roman governor decided to behead the Roman soldier and restore the peace. It may also be the executioner who wrapped a Torah around Rabbi Hanina ben Teradion and then burned both of them. That's another time when the Torah was burned. And it could have been Antiochus who burned the temple, burned a Torah scroll, and that's referred to in the book of Maccabees. And that would explain his Greek-sounding name. So we don't really know. Some guy not friendly to the Jews burned a Torah scroll before the Mishnah. So by the year 200. And then as for the question of who put an idol in the temple, it could have been King Manasseh, who was a Jewish king of Judah. This is referred to in both 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles, or it could have again been Antiochus, who it is mentioned in the Book of Maccabees did that. So lots of possibilities. All right, let's go on to the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Alan Paris, would you please read what we are supposed to do on the 17th of Tammuz?
Since the 17th of Tammuz marks the beginning of the anguish of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, it is customary to observe a partial mourning from that day until after Tisha B'Av. No weddings are performed. Some people have the custom not to eat meat, nor to drink wine from the 17th of Tammuz until after Tisha B'Av, except on Shabbat or at a meal that is considered a mitzvah.
Okay.
Context. This is from the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, meaning the abridged Shulchan Aruch. Similar to how Maimonides abridged the Talmud, Shlomo Ganzfried made the Shulchan Aruch more useful to his contemporaries around 1850. Of the 4 sections of the Shulchan Aruch, Ganzfried focused on Orach Chaim, which is about ritual observance, and Yored De'ah, which is about things like kashrut, mourning, and tzedakah. He did not focus on Evon HaEzer, about getting married, or Choshen HaMishpat, about financial disputes, as those things hopefully don't recur throughout a person's life. Why wouldn't people eat meat during the 3 weeks?
All right, so thank you. So if the 3 weeks from the 17th of Tammuz to Tisha B'Av are a time of partial mourning, why not eat meat, except on Shabbos?
Then was meat considered something really desirable?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just take this away.
David, I'm sorry, when did this tradition of not eating occur? Was it more contemporary, starting in the 17th, 1800s, or was it far back?
I don't know. My guess
I'm sorry.
My guess is that it goes further back, but I'm not sure. What would you say?
No, the reason I asked it, it's not that I have knowledge, but is if it's more recent, it could be a reflection of a culture they lived around them, the Christian culture around Lent and not eating meat, and that they felt that they should atone in a similar way to the great Jewish tragedy, but purely hypothetical. And, I have no idea based on, did it antecede or come after the Christian tradition of not eating meat during Lent?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I'm wondering if it reflects the fact that the 17th of Tammuz, one of the things that it marks is the end of, did I read that right? End of sacrifice in the temple.
Yeah, the daily sacrifice.
And, if you didn't have daily sacrifice, the Kohanim wouldn't get their share.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe this is in recognition of that.
Nice. All right, let's go on. Susan, would you please read this text?
It is the custom not to have the hair cut during these days, neither the hair of the head, nor of the beard, nor of any part of the body. Adults are forbidden to give their children a haircut.
Okay, thank you.
Context. Why would kids not get haircuts during the 3 weeks?
Great, thank you. So why aren't we giving kids haircuts during this time?
Is this referring to Sharon?
That and probably just regular haircuts. So do you want to clarify, Sharon?
I'm the last person who should be explicating Upsharon. Upsharon is I believe it's Kabbalistic custom of not cutting a child's hair until the age of 3, at which point their hair is cut for the first time and they're given their first set of tzitzit. Belonging to the Spanish Portuguese rite, which purged Kabbalah from their observance after Shabtai Tzvi converted to Islam, I'm the last person to be making any sort of comment about Upsharon or anything related to it. However, as somebody who observes in a Sephardic rite, I do feel obliged to point out that the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is both very Machmir and very Ashkenazi, and that this is by no means a universal dictum.
Fair enough.
Wouldn't this be partial mourning? It sounds like what you do during the 30 days following a death.
Yes, exactly.
So this opens up a question to me. So what would be the variance in the Sephardic observance, if at all, of these particular occasions?
So I can't speak to Sephardic custom in general. I know that it's earlier on the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, we saw recommended, said some people have the custom of refraining from meat and wine for the entirety of the 3 weeks. I believe it's general Ashkenazi custom to abstain for the 9 days. For Western Sephardic Jews, the Spanish Portuguese rite, that abstention only counts for the week that Tisha B'Av falls on. So for years like this year where Tisha B'Av falls immediately Motzei Shabbat, there is no week that it falls on. There is no Shavua Shechal Bo. So we just don't have that stricture at all.
Thank you for the explanation.
All right, let's go on to our next holiday, which will be Tzom Gedalia. Phil, would you kindly read this text, please?
Thank you. A joke. A rabbi visits one of his congregants on Tzom Gedalia and finds him sitting down to a meal. Surprised, the rabbi asked him why he was ignoring the requirement to fast on this date. I have 3 reasons for not observing Tzom Gedalia, the man replied. First of all, if Gedalia hadn't been killed on this particular date, he'd be dead by now anyway. Secondly, if I had been killed, I'm sure Gedalia wouldn't fast for me. And finally, if I don't even bother to fast on Yom Kippur, I'm certainly not going to fast on Tzom Gedalia.
Great, thank you.
Not bad.
So our context,
That's funny.
This is a classic Jewish joke. What does it say about Jews?
The Jews are comedians, right?
We can rationalize anything.
Yeah, right.
David, before we go into what it says about the Jews,
Mhm.
when I'm trying to recall when during the calendar some Gedalia falls, and I don't mean the specific Hebrew date because right now that isn't going to mean anything to me, but like around when in the English calendar or near what holiday or
Yeah, good question. Some Gedalia is a September holiday, or date, I guess. It's not really a holiday, I guess. It's a September thing, and it comes on the 3rd of Tishrei, which is notable because it's the very day after Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is a 2-day holiday, Tishrei 1, Tishrei 2, and then Tishrei 3 is a fast day. So if you feel like you ate too much over Rosh Hashanah, we have a fast day for you. Yeah, that's when some Gedalia is, and I should have centered that. Good question.
and one more clarification question.
Yeah.
For all of these holidays, or I'm sorry, all of these fast days,
Uh-huh.
is it a full fast like on Yom Kippur?
No. So a minor fast day is sun up to sundown, sunrise to sunset, whereas a major fast day is sunset to sunset.
Okay.
So that would be Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, and all the ones that we're doing are the sunrise to sunset ones, the ones that we're talking about today.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, good questions.
David,
Yes,
who was Gedalia? Period.
good question. Let's find out. All right. So, Steve, would you please read from 2 Kings about King Nebuchadnezzar?
King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon put Elidah, son of Ahikam, son of Shaphan, in charge of the people whom he left in the land of Judah. When the officers of the troops and their men heard that the king of Babylon had put Elidah in charge, they came to Elidah at Mizpah with Ishmael, son of Nehemiah, Johanan, son of Kareah, and Sariah, son of Tanhumeth, and the Nephilathite, and the Jahazariah, son of the Macachite, together with their men, and Gilead reassured them that their men, saying, "Do not be afraid of the servant of the Chaldeans. Stay in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it will go well with you." In the 7th month, Ishmael, son of Nehemiah, son of Eliashima, who was the royal descent, came with 10 men, and they struck down Gilead, and he died. They also killed the Judeans and the Chaldeans who were present with him at Mizpah. Context. This is from the biblical book of 2 Kings, which tells the story of Solomon through the Babylonian exile. At this point, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar has destroyed the first temple and taken away most of the Jews to Babylonia. Elihu was appointed to be the Jewish governor of Judea, but he was assassinated by Ishmael, probably because Ishmael opposed working with the Babylonians to achieve Jewish goals, such as some degree of Jewish autonomy. Therefore, the Babylonians imposed total control. Note, Jeremiah 47 to 41:3 has the same story, but with more intrigue. Why would this be a fast day, and how is it relevant to our lives today?
Right. So, thank you, Steve. That was some tough reading, and
Yeah, you got all the big words, Steve.
thereafter, they should be easier in future things I ask you to read. So thank you for doing that. So Gedalia is the Jewish governor appointed by the Babylonians to run the community in Judea after the Babylonians have destroyed the first temple and taken most of the Jews away. And he gets assassinated by a Jew who doesn't like that he is working with the Babylonians at all. So the question is, why should this be a fast day? And how is it relevant to our lives today?
Is it because he was the first governor appointed to Jerusalem after the destruction?
Okay, so because he's the first governor and then he gets assassinated, therefore it's a fast day?
Well, because he was the first one to be in charge of Jerusalem after the destruction.
Uh-huh.
So he was, a prominent figure. There's some hope that the Jews would again occupy and fill Jerusalem.
Okay.
Could be that after he was assassinated, the Jews lost their autonomy. And that would be a reason to be sad and go and become a fast day.
Mm-hmm.
They should become slaves.
That makes sense. How is this relevant?
Sounds so much like the thing that happened with when Trump tried to see, when the Capitol tried to be received. The idea that one person can take, that one group takes another group that is lawfully appointed and decides, no, they're no longer, they should not be there.
Okay. All right, so working within the system as opposed to trying to overthrow the system because you don't like the way that things worked out.
Okay, and that goes back to not being fair and honest and all loving towards each other.
And loving, right, kind, and honest, and have integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give a smart-ass answer and then my real answer. The smart-ass answer is any section of the Torah, of the Bible that has so many difficult names is like a fraternity hazing for anyone who has to read it, and we should fast and repent for hazing anybody having to read that. Now my more serious answer is that, I mean, the murder of your leader is viewed as one of the greatest sins of a society, and when rightfully appointed. And so maybe it's the recognition of the death of a righteous leader, particularly not an unrighteous one, needs to be mourned. I mean, it does strike me as a little strange, given all the tragedies of Jewish history, that this was chosen, but that's the only thing, why it might rise to a greater level of tragedy, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think the question is, what is the significance that makes it stand out, at least in that period of time when this was established, let's say 2,000 years ago or thereabouts. It clearly had a special significance. So my question is, what would be that special significance? Was it a better thing to have this gentleman, as you point out, as a leader, as compared to the folks who wanted to, who did assassinate him, and they wanted to displace him with some other means or methods of managing the situation? So I'm posing the question: what was, and maybe this is the first time I'm becoming aware of this. So I've asked the question, why would it be considered so important?
Well, in those days, in that time, the Jews lost their autonomy to be self-governing because he was the figurehead, if you will, that was slaughtered. But as far as it relates to today, the Jews of Europe lost their autonomy when the Holocaust came along.
Okay.
I think that's an important question, starting with Alan Rosenberg's question. But on the facts, I'm a little confused. It seems that Nebuchadnezzar put him in charge, right? Gedaliah, in charge of the people. So he was acting as, I think Charles suggested it as he was the figurehead put up by the ruling outside power. Is that right? Yes. And killing him could be understood, could be argued against it, but it could be understood as an act of resistance, right? And that he was a shill, like a Vichy governor in France, perhaps, during when the Germans didn't occupy the whole of the country. So I don't see him as the leader of the Jews, but on the other hand, it's such a grave act that can lead to retribution. In that way, it's kind of a quietistic point that we're being told that you accept the authority that you have over you. You presume that it's treated as a legitimate authority, and you act in great peril when you go against it, as the Zealots did and a lot of people in Rome, a lot of Jews opposed the Zealots, and we got the destruction of the temple there. So maybe it's that kind of an argument.
Yeah. All right, these are good points. So I'm looking at the time. I see we have about 4-ish minutes left and 2 more fast days to get through. So I'm going to do this a little quicker now. The 10th of Tevet is when the Babylonians began their siege of Jerusalem. So it's the beginning of the end. So that becomes a fast day. And then and also something I didn't know, but I discovered when I was doing research for this class, is that the Babylonians, the previous king of Judah had stopped paying tribute to Nebuchadnezzar 11 years before the temple was destroyed. So the Nebuchadnezzar came in and deported that king and a bunch of notables to Babylonia, including the prophet Ezekiel, and then put another king in charge, the previous king's uncle. And then that king rebelled against Babylonia, counting on Egypt to help him. Egypt did not. On the 10th of Tevet, Nebuchadnezzar began his siege, and this led to the destruction of the temple on Tisha B'Av and the deportation of more Jews. So there are multiple schleppings of Jews to Babylonia. So this is another minor fast day. The 10th of Tevet happens around January-ish. It's shortly after Hanukkah ends. It's a month before Tu B'Shvat. And then we have the Fast of Esther. So the Fast of Esther is because in the Purim story, Haman says all the Jews are going to be killed on the 13th of Adar. Mordecai tells Esther she should intervene. Esther's like, no, if I go and the king hasn't invited me, I'm going to get killed. As Mordecai's like, you should go anyway. Esther's like, fine, ask everybody to fast for me for 3 days. I'll fast too. and then I'll go talk to the king, and if I perish, I perish. So things turn out fine. But at the end of the story, Esther and Mordecai send a letter to all the Jews saying they should celebrate Purim from now on. And then they send a second letter, which is usually the one that's forgotten, and at least I forgot it. I didn't realize it existed. Maybe everybody else knows about it, saying that you should also remember to do the fasting and the lamenting that we Jews did when we thought we were going to get killed on the 13th of Adar. And so the 13th of Adar, the day before Purim, becomes a fast day. And if Purim is on a Sunday, then the fast day for Esther gets moved to Thursday. And like the other ones, which get pushed to Sunday. And that's something Maimonides points out. So then, what do we do on these fast days? As we talked about before, you can have on Tisha B'Av, it's sundown to sundown. On the minor fast days, you can have food at night, and then it's just a fast day, sunrise to sunset. On the minor fast days, you're permitted to wash and, quote, apply cream, which is like perfume, and wear leather shoes, and have marital relations. But on Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, these are all forbidden. Also,
David, I'm sorry, I know we're tight, but I'm confused. I thought there were 4 minor fast days.
there are. There are 4. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is not talking about the Fast of Esther. In the section where this is pulled from, I believe it talks about it somewhere else, but these things apply to the Fast of Esther as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking for clarification. I know I'm moving quickly. On a fast day, if you're pregnant, nursing, or otherwise have a medical reason that you need to eat or drink, you should do so. That's pikuach nefesh, saving a life, and that breaks all the rules except for the rules against idolatry, rape, and murder. And then finally, we end with something from the Talmud that says that whoever mourns for Jerusalem will merit to see her future joy. So the rabbis were hopeful that if you took these minor days fast seriously, and then you would, the more you put in, the more you get out. That like you'll pay more attention to the sorrows of Jerusalem, and also pay more attention to the joys of Jerusalem when things go poorly, when things go well. And because you're paying attention, you'll get the joys that you wouldn't have gotten if you weren't paying attention.
David?
Yeah.
The difference between sunset and sundown?
Same thing. I'm using them interchangeably.
So they're basically full fast days, it sounds like, in both cases.
No. Minor fast days are sunrise or sunup to sunset, sundown. Major fast days are sundown/sunset to sundown/sunset.
Sorry, I misheard you. Okay, thank you.
I'm glad you asked, because that was an important point to take away from this whole class. All right, so thank you all for joining me this evening.
Thank you.
If you choose to fast on the 17th of Tammuz, it is this coming Sunday, sunrise to sunset. So I wish you an easy fast. And I look forward to seeing you all this coming Monday when we'll do some more Pirkei Avot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
David.
everyone.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, David.
Night.
David. Bye-bye.
Well,
Bye.
Great.